What if the real problem with modern dating isn't a lack of love, but a loss of order? Welcome to Black Love Dialogue and Wine, a private podcast experience for those serious about love, marriage, and legacy. This isn't surface level romance. These are intentional conversations reclaiming the strongest love ever known, Black love. In today's dating culture, we've normalized trauma bonding and calling it commitment. We've romanticized love while forgetting marriage was built for legacy before feelings. At Black Love Dialogue, we restore balance, honoring love and structure, emotion and purpose. If you're seeking love, strengthening it, or preparing for marriage, this private experience gives you the mindset and resources to build lasting pair bonds. This private Zoom takes place 8 p.m. Eastern, last Sundays of the month. So get your tickets on eventbrite.com and bring your flash so we can toast and deep dive into legacy before love, featuring therapists Makaya Dominguez, Marilyn Odwini, mental health advocate Chris James, and award-winning relationship coaches Fala Antoine, Derek Cecile Clark, and Vaun The Love Alchemist with over 35 years of marriage. What's up, Vaun?
Peace, family. How you doing, brother?
35 years doing this thing on the Black Love Dialogue and Wine private podcast experience. Thank you for being with me, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, man. Yeah, 35 years, man. It's been good. Still going.
It's been good. Hey, yeah. on the thing, you said the first 10 years is rough, though.
Yeah. Well, I guess I should clarify then. The last 25 have been good.
Hey, but at this point, you got way more good, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
sure. Good stuff, man. But yeah, man, just called you on to just do a recap. Every fourth Sunday is, if you heard, I think it's at every last Sunday on the promo, but it's every fourth Sunday. We do the Black Love Dialogue and Wine, a private podcast experience for those serious about love, marriage, and legacy. And so what we do is I invite people like yourself, or actually our co-hosts, or people like yourself, as we highlighted in the clip. And so we'll get a couple of you guys on and just have a deep dive into this thing we call marriage, if you will, love, and those who want to be long-term pair bonded. And so, but with that said, the idea is to create a community around it for people who are looking for it, for people that are newly into it, and those that have been into it, like yourself, to serve as wisdom and kind of create a culture around this community of marriage. Because we know in the past when you lived, within a 10-mile radius of your entire family and your village and that type of thing, the village kind of held you up when you were first learning and understanding how to get into this long-term pair bonding thing we call marriage. You had that in the past, but now that we live spread out apart, your families all over the country, new marriages don't have that culture. And so we're trying to recreate that culture with the Black Love Dialogue. How you feel about that perspective, having been a part of it on the last two?
Oh man, it's dope, man. I think I commend you for even having the mind and the will to put this together. As you know, to the point that you just made, in times past, you had a much smaller pool to choose from as far as mating options go. And not only that, but your families were familiar with one another. And so you knew which families really, let me back up just a little bit, and I'll say it this way. You didn't have to, it wasn't a solo effort to find your mate, right? It was more of a communal effort because we were all familiar with one another. So even though we weren't big on getting mental health issues diagnosed per se, we still knew who was crazy, right? And we would say, hey, that family right there, might want to stay away from them. And everybody knew it. But now, everybody's doing a solo thing. You can relocate so easily, and you don't really know what a person's family history is. So we're bonding with people. We're mating and marrying and procreating with people who we have no idea what their mental health or even physical health history looks like. So it's a lot more challenging, and that just means we have to be a little bit more diligent.
Yep, and our diligence is an option, right? A virtual opportunity, no matter where you live, to get associated with people that can, like I said, you could be newly married in the middle of your marriage, and you just once a month have these conversations like we're having on these fourth Sundays private podcast experience to kind of shore up what you're doing. And we learn from people like yourself. Again, 35 years married you are, for those who are just now tuning in. And so what we're doing today is just recapping a little bit of what happened on Sunday night. It's also promo to get people to be a part of what we're doing, if you will. And so I brought you on to, because again, you were featured. You were one of the featured co-hosts on the last one, and so I wanted to let them hear and see some of what we do, which is we play clips and do deep dives. So we're going to do an example here, but of course, it's not the same hour and a half deep dive that we were able to do for the private podcast. But we want to give people publicly a taste of what we do, and what we're doing is highlighting something that came out of the last one, and go a little deeper than even that we went in the actual podcast itself, because we do not only do we do clips, but we also feature the inner working of relationships, a book on relationships, making sure you're understanding your own trauma and how to move with another person. So that's something else that we're doing. We won't do that here, but just to give people the full context. And then we take Q&A at the end, so people get to dialogue, ask you guys questions about things that they may need in the event of their relationship. So we're just going to show y'all who are watching just a little bit of the first part of how we do it, but obviously it's just me and Vaun versus we have a whole community. And when you're a part of our private podcast experience, it's actually a Zoom where you can talk and participate. So you're not just listening to myself and on the YouTube today. So I just wanted to give those distinct differences as we go into this recap. So here's one of the clips that we played, and I wanted to kind of spark your memory on some things that came out of it that I thought was worthy of discussion, if you will. And so let me replay this clip. And we actually played it on one of these before as well, but we're going to play it again for everybody, and then we'll respond to the clip. One thing I did that night is I should have played the whole clip, because I got a little extra thing that I said, and I'm going to play it here because I wish we would have brought it in that night. But all we played in the private podcast was just the part where the Jewish rabbi is speaking.
You do not get married because you're in love with someone. You have to be in love with marriage if you're going to get married. A man says to a woman, I'm not the marrying type. I never really thought of marriage. I don't like the idea so much. But you are incredible. You I would marry. Terrible idea. And unfair. The entire weight of the relationship is on her. She has to be incredible every day. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he has no interest in being married.
What's up? It's your boy Black Socrates. As I always say, the truth comes in all colors. I find this clip to be very profound. It's something that I didn't understand until my 40s, if you will. Highly recommend go find the Mental Dialogue Talk Show. How I lost a decade chasing love, hip hop, how I lost a decade chasing love, as I break down my misunderstanding of what I now understand, I understand this guy is saying. At the end of the day, how many of us have fallen in love with the concept of love, or that this he or she is so incredible, and that's been, in a sense, the start, and people went all the way to the altar just based on that, not understanding marriage and what its purpose really is. We are the first generation to be raised with movies, so we've confused and placed love before legacy, and we have it backwards. It's legacy before love. Marriage is about commitment to family and children. All I ask is that you think. So I wish I would have played the whole clip specifically for the end of what I said. I want to go back to what he said, but it was the legacy before love, because that's something that we promote. And so I would have loved to have had that additional context as we walked into our conversation that night, if you will, legacy before love, and that the legacy is really the aim that actually holds you together. If you would, just speak to that very briefly, and then I want to go into what the rabbi said that we talked about that night that I wanted to pull out of it. But just your thoughts on the legacy before love. And I always make sure that I always clarify, I'm simply talking about order, not hierarchy, when I say that line, legacy before love. Go ahead, brother.
No, I mean, you summed it up beautifully, and I think it is crucial that I do think that priority is, and even hierarchy, if you want to go there with it, it is important that legacy is before love, because your marriage has to be anchored in something deeper than just how we feel, because we know that feelings are fleeting, right? Today I might love you a little bit less than I did yesterday. I mean, just as far as how I feel, because I'm not the same person. My 100 today may not be the same as my 100 tomorrow. So feelings are not something that's safe or even wise to anchor a marriage in, as much as it is an understanding that there are greater priorities than how we feel.
Good stuff. And so we played that clip and obviously opened it up for dialogue. and y'all gave y'all take on it. And I recall there was this one period, and this is kind of where we're going, as I titled today, Equality in Modern Relationships. And so there was a point in which one of our watchers or viewers, if you will, was pointing out that says, hey, marriage has been repressive for a lot of years. Like that was kind of the opening to, in a sense, to their statement. And they kind of just really went into, in a sense, the feminine and basically how they haven't been respected, and how, especially in Western society, which we didn't disagree with that, but just especially in Western society, there's the way marriage has been handled. And so in a sense, it needs to be entirely different or whatever. And I'm probably doing him an injustice of exactly what his presentation was, but he definitely led with marriage has been repressive. And it kind of sparked a big conversation into, in a sense, how women are seen, and it got us into the equality conversation. If you recall, one couple highlighted that they felt like there was been some level of overcorrection in current times. Or again, if you recall this, there's been an overcorrection in current times to where, in a sense, men are, in a sense, being looked down upon. That was kind of something that also came out of the dialogue. And then I just remember the rest of a big portion of the dialogue after that was still just honoring, in a sense, how the woman should be seen. Here's the thing, and I'll let you jump in, Vaun. Here's the thing. That kind of got said, even though when you guys led off as the host, yourself and Sincere, when y'all kind of led off and gave y'all thoughts, y'all really, Sincere specifically, went into kind of a definition of what do we mean by marriage inside of our private podcast. So he had given a distinctive difference to kind of remove some of the negative connotations that we all both were very aware of out here. Marriage is kind of a dirty word in 2026, or it can be in some circles. And so Sincere, in my opinion, set it up very well to kind of say, let me make sure I'm being clear what we're talking about. He highlighted his wife as his divine complement, his, that type of thing, and just really placing her, literally eye to eye with him. And as he finished, that comment still got made. And I'm not knocking it. I understood where it came from, but it was almost like it overlooked how we defined it inside of the podcast, if you recall that. And so I'm going to jump out right there and I want to hear some of your thoughts, because I remember your head nodding at different points inside of the podcast and you didn't necessarily jump in. So I'm kind of curious at what were your thoughts as you watched that dynamic play out. I think at the end, we got to an understanding of what we mean, but there was a long period where it was kind of this marriage is repressive. That kind of was the theme for a little while. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I think we've been led or we've kind of gone in a direction as it relates to male-female relationships where, there's always this wrestling with who's more important versus the other, which one is the prize, there's always this thing, this energy that pits male against female and tries to establish an order of importance in the relationship. Is the man more important? Is the woman more important? And to Sincere's point, which I was nodding along with, in agreement with, is that there is no order of importance per se. Like in my marriage, my wife and I are equally important. She is my complement. And the point of complementarity is what we were emphasizing more so than opposites. Like a lot of people say men and women are opposites, male and females are opposites. And I disagree completely with that. I think we are necessarily different, which is what draws out the complementary spirit in masculine and feminine relating. Does that answer the question?
No, absolutely. Yeah, it was just your thoughts. Yeah, you cannot. I didn't ask a question per se. I just wanted to hear kind of your thoughts. What do you recall from it? And so, even as we went into that deep complementary, if you recall, it still came back to question.
Right.
Well, I think we are equal, and it got moved into the equality of spirit initially in the spiritual realm, which I don't think I don't think any of us necessarily disagreed with in the spiritual realm per se.
Yeah.
But I just remember you and Sincere kind of when it got moved to that, it seemed to come back to day and how we see one another. And that's where I felt like you and Sincere were kind of say, well, hold on, let's make sure we don't get some things misunderstood about equality in current times. When that conversation got brought back, you and Sincere were kind of pushing back to say, let's make sure we get some things understood. So if you can kind of speak to that, that's what the conversation really is about today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure, man. My wife and I are not equal. But again, I emphasize there is not an order of importance or significance. I see her as being just as significant and just as important to our union as she sees me. And I see that across the board as far as male and female, with respect to how male-female relationships go. There is no one who's more important or less important or more or less significant. And in that respect, we are equal. But as far as equality in the marriage, like I go out and I earn. My wife is a stay-at-home wife. She's a homemaker. She runs our business from home. But as far as what sustains us in our finances, that's all me. That's 100% me. So we're not equal in that regard. The effort may be she's going to give 100%. I'm going to give 100%. But how that shows up, I don't even know that it's even measurable to say that we're equal in that regard. But our contribution to, as far as the finances go in our home, is not equal. Our contribution to making sure that our home is secure and safe and well protected, we're not equal in that regard. But there are some ways that, as far as her nurturing spirit and her contribution to the children and the grandchildren, I can't match her in that regard. There's no way so we're not going to be equal in that regard. I love them just as much as she does, but I'm incapable of showing up in the capacity that she does. So we get diluted with this idea of things being equal, rather than understanding that there are necessary differences that she brings to the table and that I bring to the table. And that's where the spirit of complementarity comes into play.
Absolutely. And I think when you say diluted, because we're diluted, that's why, even with, in my opinion, Sincere giving his kind of saying, hey, here's what it means in us, the pushback, which we're okay with. So we're not, that's why we do the dialogue. We want to dialogue and get to an understanding, right? So I do want to make it clear that even though we're having this dialogue, it's not even to necessarily attack that point. It's just to get a further understanding and show y'all what we're doing inside of the podcast. And we got to a place of understanding. We just bringing some of that out for all of you watching today to see what we're doing inside the podcast. But part of the reason that comeback came, in my opinion, is exactly what you said. We hear the word equality and we're diluting, I love how you say it, the necessary differences. And because that is diluted, we actually miss how to bring those necessary differences to a relationship in a complementary way. I think we lean into I've always said, from my perspective, and I love your perspective much better than mine, but I'm just saying, we've done these dialogues when we were doing mental dialogue. And I always says the mistake of the word equality and how we look at it in current times is we just look at it almost simply as definition. Equality equals meaning the same. And so that is typically the dialogue of us kind of butting heads and not, as I say, respecting those differences, because the respect of the differences is probably why in my opinion, probably why you've gotten 35 years of marriage, or 36, I think now. But I'm just saying, go ahead and jump in real quick. I'm gonna share a line with you real quick.
I'm with you. It's kind of the same spirit. We had this conversation about submission before on one of your previous podcasts. Words mean so much. Everybody's super smart now. Everybody's got a dictionary in the palm of their hand, and the words don't necessarily resonate with us the same just because we're reading the same words, right? So we have these triggers, these emotional triggers, these psychological triggers that are anchored in trauma from childhood, and so we're battling to figure out our place in this thing for the first time in human history. We're having to navigate these relationships on our own and figure it out on our own. And so it's important that we be clear on what we mean when we say things in our communication with one another. So this is why I go to great lengths to try to explain, there is an order in relationships, and there is a priority when it comes to the point that you made legacy over love, and equality versus complementarity, and submission versus cooperation or cooperative union. We have to be able to dissect and even drill down on these points so that we don't get so hung up on wordplay that it disallows us to function in a relationship cohesively. And I think that's what's happening right now. We're running good men and good women away from each other, all because we're getting caught up on what a word means. And the spirit of the relationship would be much more harmonious if we could just settle these very basic and oftentimes petty differences.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. We got on some side. It says, we are a people who don't understand how much slavery has done to our people. Many need mental health. We are in the last times now. God bless you and your wife for 35 years of marriage. Thank you for the comment. I think that's Dina Moore that said that. So thank you for the comment. And so here's a line I read in a book recently, Vaun, and I think, I'm gonna read. I'm gonna just read it, and then I'll give you my thoughts to it. So, let me see. I'll make sure I give the context right so it makes sense. All right. This is in a relationship, personal or professional. What do most men fundamentally want from a woman partner? And it was like 3 things mentioned, but I'm only going to bring one to the table for the sake of this conversation. It says a woman who will go to war with them, and if needed, she is capable to drag her male partner and his kids out alive. So let me read it again, just to make sure it's clear. It says, in a relationship, personal or professional, what do most men fundamentally want from a woman partner? And one of the things was a woman who will go to war with them, and if needed, she is capable to drag her male partner out and his kids out alive. My thoughts, and I want to hear what your thoughts are, is that is not what we want. At all. Nowhere close. Nowhere close to that.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
And I'm going this hard because I want to lean into, as you say, the distinct necessary differences to highlight what we want is I go to war, and if I don't make it back, I want a very capable woman, because we have both set the table that in me having to go off, our family is good because of what we established before I went off to war. Hell no, I don't want you to go to war with me, and you be able to be strong enough to drag the kids out, but don't try to drag me to, and we all do perish. Right. Like, just the whole concept of it, I think, is doused in current modern language. I'm not mad at the sentiment. I wanted to highlight why I think the sentiment exists, and I think it's an example of what we miss in modern conversations. I think equality is looked like as that. So someone would say, hey, this is what a man wants. And no, men do not want that. It's not about a right or wrong. It's about, now this is where we can get into complementary versus that sentence. To me, is what we look at as equality as today. That's what made me highlight that from my perspective. Your thoughts, brother?
Man, I still like when my wife comes to me with a jar of pickles and says, can you open this for me, please?
Absolutely.
You know, I like when she sees, if she sees, you know, we call them, we from Chicago, and okay, we didn't have these big old cockroaches in Chicago, but down here, we call them palmetto bugs. I don't know if that's the term y'all use, but it's just these giant, and they fly.
Yeah, water bugs. We call them water bugs down here.
Okay, well, that's the term we got when we first came.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. Yeah, both of them probably fit. I'm just saying we call them water bugs. Yeah, but go ahead. Just
when she sees one, she's like, "Fine," you know what I'm saying?
Go
get it. You know, if she hears something in the night, she's tapping me like, "Go see what that is." And I don't have no qualms about saying there's nothing in me that says it's your turn.
Hey, ever.
You dig what?
Ever. Because equality would be, it's your turn.
Yeah.
I think modern relationships, generally speaking, think of it that way.
Yeah. There's nothing in me that ever, when it comes to the safety and security of my family, my home, there's nothing in me that says I did it last time. It's your turn. Right now, with that being said, I take my wife to the range.
Yep, that's where I was
capable,
going next.
she is confident, she is competent, and she can handle business, right? But that's only if things get so bad that they come to my home and maybe I'm, disabled, maybe I'm incapacitated in some kind
Or
of
you're
way.
not there. That's what the capability
Or I'm not there. Or maybe the threat is so great that I need more than just what I'm capable of doing. Okay, there are instances where I'm glad that she can assist me if necessary.
That's why you make her capable, though. I'm just saying you're already saying why you make her capable.
But I agree with you 100% that in the forefront of my mind, I'm not thinking of my wife as my protector. Absolutely not.
And so, yeah, and again, that's where I think the sentiment of the pushback, even though you and in my opinion, you and Sincere, when I listen to you guys, made a distinct difference of understanding the importance, as you highlighted in the beginning of this video, the importance of the role that you both have. There isn't a idea that one is more important. It's actually we appreciate what you're capable of doing that we are not capable of doing. So how could you ever be less than? Now, true to form, which I still thought it was very beautiful that the brother who brought the conversation to the table is it's almost like, let's make sure you're not talking about, in a sense, this Western situation where we are lowering the woman. Right. So it was still very valid that we were, in a sense, that it was challenged that way, because we wouldn't have had he not challenged us. We don't know who, as we talked about these words meaning different things for different people. We wouldn't have wanted people to listen to you guys and then the rest of the day be assuming we're talking about that, because what we did do is highlight that there are aspects of what the rabbi brought forward to kind of bring it back to that, right? That he had brought some aspects, and what I did say on the podcast was on the Zoom. What I said was there's aspects that he's talking about that are still viable,
right?
But and so at that time, I get that people were like, well, what aspects of the marriage are you talking about? So that's fair. So I definitely am trying to be very clear here that although we're distinguishing and having a deeper dialogue in this, we welcome the pushback. And now I'm highlighting how necessary it was. And we're thankful for it because, again, it makes for a much more robust dialogue, and it allows us to align the terminology. I got another clip if you got one more clip if you got a little more time.
I do. Let me just tie a little bit in on
please do.
Not only do I appreciate those types of pushbacks in the conversation, they're necessary because it's just another highlight on the fact that we do come from different perspectives and we do see things very differently. And it's not a matter of who's right or who's wrong. It's a matter of reconciling the ideas so that we can find harmony in our relating to one another. So I appreciate the even though we were slightly oppositional, we weren't fighting, but we had different of perspective. And but I appreciate that so much because, man, we grow from that type of aligning our understanding so that we can move together.
And that's why we have the podcast.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get you one quick thought on this one because I want to make sure I keep these short for these promo videos for the actual podcast, private podcast. But this is
listen to this. You say duty as a man to provide. Part of that is right. The other part that you're missing is you're not providing for a woman. You're providing a means. So what's the difference? You don't come to my table and I don't come to your table. We create a table. So then what happens with that, when that marriage, is that even if I am here or I'm not here, you know what to do. It should be. If all I do is give you the money, and all I do is go out to get the money, and I am not here no more, I am simply.
Yes.
I need to get you on the table with me so that the table's created so that no matter what happens, leg is done, I lapse brain, whatever else, you know what to do. Partnership. What that means financially is that you don't bring money and I don't bring money. What it is that whoever can do what we need to do to create an environment where you can make the money.
I really wish more men thought this way.
Then it's fine.
What do you think about what he said?
So I want to make it real clear, even though we're having, if you will, the gender conversation about equality, I want to make it real clear as we close this. This ain't directed at a gender, because what I love about that clip, Vaun, is in current times, and the reason we need a Black love dialogue to have these conversations around love, marriage, and legacy, we're not currently producing enough men who understand what that brother just said. Like, let's own that. These are the dialogues we got to have, right? And so I want to make sure that as much as, in a sense, I was saying, hey, we don't want a woman to drag us out. Like, as much as I'm saying that, I want to make sure I'm being real clear. We're not directing nothing at no gender. It's about better understanding us about these complementary differences. And right now, the reason we got to have this, as I say this again, is I'm still learning some of what that brother talked about. I'll own that. So you're living that out. And that's why we have people like you as the host, people that are living out sound legacies and marriages that are working. That's why our relationship coaches have every one of y'all that are hosts are married. I'm the moderator that's not trying to learn how to be married, learn these things that you're talking that we're showing. But yeah, your thoughts to it, man, because again, I want to make sure that even though that first part may have seemed like we were directing it towards the ladies, that's not what we're doing inside of this podcast. And I think that clip highlights some of that.
I think also what was important about what he was saying is the idea of having, like they say, having some skin in the game. There's a whole different energy about our relationship when I just give you everything versus when you help me establish things or when you're a part of the process. Man, look, like Eddie Murphy said, my wife loved me when she thought I was a goat herder, right? So we go all the way back to when I was working at Taco Bell, and I was wearing run over Reeboks, you know what I mean? And so she's been there with me the entire way through. So she's been able to appreciate the days where all I could buy was beans and cornbread to feed her and the 4 children. You know what I mean? And then now here we are where I got to a point where I could retire her from work early because I appreciate her contribution and her patience and her steadfastness and all that. Hey, you don't have to go out there and be stressed by some other boss no more. Now you can do for us at home. And now I got this, you know what I mean? And but we can't get there without going through what we went through. You can't just show up, to the brother's point, to this table that I've already set and you ain't had nothing to do with. All you do is sit down and eat. Like, you don't have no skin in the game. I need you to bring, like they saying now, bring something to the table. It's not about her making as much money as me or what it's about as much as anything is about me, about her offering a level of sacrifice that I can appreciate. It's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice, or at least a complementary sacrifice.
Yeah. And see, I like how he puts it. He didn't even say it's not. He says his words was, "It's not what I bring to the table. It's not what you bring to the table. It's let's build this table." Yeah. So I even like that concept even more.
Especially today, because women are making money. It's not the same as when my granddaddy was.
Absolutely. Or not. And all that has to be considered. And we talked about on the podcast, the emotional intelligence that us as men need. That's an aspect that we have to bring in modern times. So the dialogues go deep, y'all, man. Thank you for the extra 3 minutes, Vaun, for the time on a Sunday morning. And so we'll get this out and we'll follow us on Instagram at mental_dialogue and Black Love Dialogue at Black Love Dialogue. And Eventbrite, just look for Black Love Dialogue and Wine podcast, and you'll see how to be a part of it. It's an actual private podcast that you actually pay for because it's for those who are serious. Just like Vaun said, put a little skin in the game and come get this information. And because it's for people who are serious. That's why we're not on the internet trying to get got you moments on the other gender. We're not wasting no time with that. We're having deep dive dialogues to create a community around this thing we call love, marriage, and legacy, and ultimately Black love. All right, thank you, Vaun, for your time, brother.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having me.
I'm gonna close out with the intro clip just so for people that got on late just to see exactly what we're talking about. Let me replay that just so people are aware. Not sure whether let me play it. Yeah. What if the real problem with modern dating isn't a lack of love, but a loss of order? Welcome to Black Love Dialogue and Wine, a private podcast experience for those serious about love, marriage, and legacy. This isn't surface level romance. These are intentional conversations reclaiming the strongest love ever known, Black love. In today's dating culture, we've normalized trauma bonding and calling it commitment. We've romanticized love while forgetting marriage was built for legacy before feelings. At Black Love Dialogue, we restore balance, honoring love and structure, emotion and purpose. If you're seeking love, strengthening it, or preparing for marriage, this private experience gives you the mindset and resources to build lasting pair bonds. This private Zoom takes place 8 p.m. Eastern, last Sundays of the month. So get your tickets on eventbrite.com and bring your flash so we can toast and deep dive into legacy before love, featuring therapists Makaya Dominguez, Marilyn Odwini, mental health advocate Chris James, and award-winning relationship coaches Fala Antoine, Derek Sincere Clark, and Vaun The Love Alchemist with over 35 years of marriage.